Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Business Strategy Roundtable. Today, I've got a friend of mine, Nick Wolf from Cork, a cyber warranties organization. We're going to be talking about the difference between cyber warranties and cyber insurance after we learn a little bit about Nick and his journey in life. It's not going to be a quote entrepreneurial journey. But last week when we had CJ on, we learned that sometimes your career journey's got a little entrepreneurship mixed in there. So I'm going to have to figure out how to properly name this first segment. But anyway, hi, Nick. Thank you for being here for approaching Christmas episode.
No problem. Happy to be here.
I love your background, man. I'm excited to get to talk about your story a little bit. And you're somebody that I think has always had really great energy and has always been easy to talk to, because you're so forward with the things that you like. One of the things you said before we went live, as you were talking about some of your stuff, is you said that you were a nerd. And I love people that own who and what they are. And I saw a TikTok recently, and I think it was like Matthew McConaughey or somebody freaking goofy, but he was saying what's cool is when people can just genuinely own who they are and be like excited and happy about it. And you're like, I'm a freaking nerd. Here's the stuff I like. And you kind of own that about all aspects of yourself, which I admire. And I think is a good way to do business. So tell me about where that came from.
Yeah.
When did you become comfortable with yourself? Because I don't think that's easy for most folks.
I mean, when I was in high school, I was always one to pick up a video game controller instead of basketball or baseball. So I was involved in like the tech club and the gaming club and things of that nature for sure.
When did you feel comfortable being open about it? Because I went through a stage in life, and this is not something that I'm proud of, but at 4 years old, I played Pokemon for the very first time. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I had friends that I played with. And around like 10 or 11, I like all of a sudden like got really insecure or whatever the hell happens. And I like got shy about the fact that I liked Pokemon, and I felt like it was like a childish thing or whatever. And there was like a stretch of time where I like didn't allow myself to enjoy that as publicly as maybe I could have and would have, and probably other people would have also as well, right? Because 10, 11, and 12-year-olds like fucking Pokemon. When did you feel like you could just be like, this is the shit that I like? Or is that always something that was a part of you?
It was always part of me. I never tried to hide it. Sorry, not sorry. I what you see is what you get from me. I don't try to sugarcoat things. I just, I try to be as open, as honest as possible, both professionally and personally.
Yeah. I think that's probably why you're in a partner acquisition or partner support role. If I am like just thinking out loud, because in my experience, sales is best done when it's genuine and you're a genuine person. And I bet it makes people feel comfortable and at ease.
Yep. I mean, I just want to have a good conversation when I'm on the line with my MSPs, my customers, especially when it's a first call. And there's plenty of times where I end the call early and say, you know what, you are not a good fit for us. And I value your time. So probably best to move on here, versus trying to sell them something that is just going to cost them a bunch of money that isn't going to be a fit or provide value.
I admire that. And I think we need more of that in the technology space, startups, MSPs, all of it. It's a good thing.
Yep.
So you were always into video games growing up, or you were into video games growing up. Did you have an idea of your career aspirations? Did you know that you wanted to be in technology or in the startup space? Or did you just kind of...
When I was younger, no, nothing to do with technology, really. When I was like younger, I knew I wanted to do something with sales. Like, I was just insane with sales, whether it was like a high school, middle school, we were selling like magazine. We did like a magazine sale. Then we did like candy bar sale, stuff like that. So I got into sales at a very, very young age. I think one year we were selling popcorn, or maybe that was through the Boy Scouts. We were selling popcorn, whatever sales event was it. I cared less about making money personally and more about being the top of the sales leaderboard with most revenue in.
Yeah.
My team raised the most money in the Relay for Life when I was in high school. Again, I didn't see a dime of that, but it was the thrill and excitement of, regardless of what widget or thing or service we're selling, it's always me or my team making the most.
So you didn't like sports, but you are very competitive.
Yes, competitive in a different way for sure.
Where did the competitive nature come from?
Alrighty, I guess that goes back to my family.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my sister, she was the star athlete. She was always, AAA sports, doing softball, her thing. My brother was the super smart one, straight A's, A plus plus, student government president, and then that left me. So I became the one who knew how to talk well, right? I was the one who could sell ice to an Eskimo, as my mother would say.
That's
So,
cool.
and I was able to use that, whether it was in fundraiser sales or something else, that's what really got my dopamine going.
Nice. What was the hardest experience in sales? Because I know I've done some of those sales experiences too, whether it be candy. I did the candy bar one, door to door. When I was uh, particularly younger, man, I did some door to door stuff with like lawn mowing, and you can kind of come across some interesting experiences in sales because you're approaching people, and people are variable to a tremendous degree. Do you have any interesting stories from your younger ages about sales that kind of?
I mean, being in sales at such a younger age, when I was, only a teenager or whatever, you get to deal with rejection early. So now when I get hung up on professionally, or, I lose that sale, lose that quote, it's no skin off my shoulder. It's like, all right, been there once, been there a million times. Because one of those days you wake up and you're not this charming 12-year-old, cute little rosy cheeked boy selling Snickers bars anymore. You're actually going to get people saying, no, I don't want this. No, I don't want that. So
Absolutely.
dealing with the first no at an early age, once you can accomplish that, you'll be good in sales.
Great. So you knew you wanted to do something in sales. Did you choose a college track out of high school, or did you go right into pursuing a sales opportunity?
So dumb luck. It's all about knowing the right people at the right time, to be totally honest. So again, I wasn't in any sports in high school. I was in the tech club in Newtown High School here in Connecticut. And one of the alumni of the tech club was a guy named Austin McCord. And he comes in as, a graduate saying, hey, tech club kids, I was in tech club too a couple years ago. I'm building this company called Datto, and I need some of you tech kids to test out this device. So he gave us the very first Datto backup device. And, it was a huge device at the time. It was, a whopping 250 gigabytes, right? Absolutely huge amount of data for the time. And being a normal high school kid, I took the free device, went home, downloaded, LimeWire onto it or whatever other absolutely terrible, terrible, file sharing stuff there was. And I'm like, all right, this backup thing is kind of cool. But that really opened the door for me having a business path in tech sales in the future. Because by the time I graduated high school, like a year or two later, Austin and the company Datto became a huge company. It was at about 15 employees at the time. And that blew my mind. Wow, you built this small startup from one employee a couple of years ago to now 15 employees. This is absolutely huge. So I really joined there as the first sales intern. And, that grew into a $1 billion business with over 2,000 employees. And I've been selling technology products for managed service providers ever since.
Very cool. I wanted to ask one other thing about the competitive nature in sales. You said you always wanted to see yourself at the top of the leaderboard. How did you do it? What's the trick to consistently win at sales? Because you were able to do it from a young age. So you obviously have a couple of those.
Great question. So it doesn't matter what your title is or how tenured you are. You could be the senior vice president of sales, the chief revenue officer, or whoever. At the end of the day, everybody in the organization that's related to sales is an SDR. You're always setting appointments. You're always prospecting. You're always nurturing leads. It doesn't matter how senior you are. Even I do it today. I have some kick-ass SDRs and BDRs here at Cork, and I'm blessed to have them. But, for me personally, I'm always setting my own appointments. When I got my sales quotas at Cork, or at Datto rather, back in the day, the way that I envisioned it is, alrighty, I need to hit 100% of my sales quota by myself. Imagining there was no event leads, there was no marketing leads, there was no SDR team. I need to hit 100% of my quota myself. Everything else that I get from SDRs and marketing and the website and events, that's just a cherry on top. So that's the mentality that I had is, wow, I have this huge number to hit all by myself, and that's within my control. And everything I get from other sources is just an add-on, because sometimes you have trade shows in your territory, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have a rock star SDR, BDR appointment setter. Sometimes they leave, sometimes they get promoted, right? So the only thing that you're always going to have as a constant is, what is my output? I know my number and I have to hit it by any means necessary. Anyone else that contributes to that is amazing. I want to see more of that. But at the end of the day, marketing isn't going to be held accountable if you as a sales rep don't hit your number. Your BDR probably not going to be held accountable if you as a sales rep don't hit your number. So as a sales rep at the time, you got to own it.
Absolutely. You said something that stuck out to me, which is what I can control. And that's something that I look for as a leader that's hired people over the course of pretty much, well, the entire time in my career, even before I left college, is somebody that has what I like to call intrinsic a locus of control, where they believe that the outcome that is going to, let me slow down, that they understand that the outcome may not be completely within their control, but if they focus on what they are able to control, the outcome that they want will eventually become closer and closer and closer. So many people spend time focused on what other people, what they wish other people would do or could do or should do. And that's in that space that you're talking about, where you're not always going to have the rock star BDR. You made the point about somebody getting promoted. And I remember my time in Domino's, I regularly supervised 8 stores in Salt Lake City for a good stretch of time. And at one point we had one of our highest grossing revenue stores, the general manager got promoted, which was a huge victory for me as a supervisor, because it's like, okay, I've developed somebody far enough along their journey to be able to take a big step. But then it left a gap in a store that did 2.5 times what an average store would do, with a team that was used to being led by a really high functioning leader. And there was struggles there to be able to maintain how well the store performed, how comfortable the team was with the leadership. And then the leader that ultimately took over the role had to grow into that. And when you're a leader looking at the store, it can be absolutely damning as a district manager to look at the store and be like, well, Eric just can't X, Y, and Z. He just is not this and that. When what I need to be thinking is, what do I need to do to get Eric where he needs to go? What do I need to do to make sure that the team in the store is expressing the positives and the negatives that are happening so I can guide them? And if you focus on, well, what do I need to do? Then you're moving the ball forward, and other people that care about the ball going forward will get behind you and push that thing. But if you just sit there and look at the ball and bitch about how the ball's not going forward, then the thing's never going forward. So whenever I'm building teams, I always try to find individuals that are willing to pick up the rope or put their hands on the ball and try to make the thing move. Because if you get a bunch of people like that together, you're going to get people, you're going to get results one way or another. Anything you'd like to add to that, or I'll start lobbing other questions at you?
No, I think that brings a very valid point. Promoting is always huge. And what I like to do is I like to see success happen after the torch has been passed, right? When your top BDR leaves and you're able to bring in another BDR and not lose momentum, because you or the BDR manager is really helping making that new role as successful as possible. Like, I've been promoted in the past, and the people that take my position, I want to set them up for success. I don't want to see the territory I work go from being the top performing territory to the least performing territory. I want to see it to go from the top to still the top and keep that momentum going.
Right. Absolutely. You talked about so you mentioned the internal piece on, well, I have to hit my numbers. No matter what, I have to hit my numbers. Can you talk a little bit about some of the strategies that you've employed to ensure that you do hit your numbers? Because life happens and sometimes things can get in the way. How do you make sure that you bring the consistency, so to speak?
This is going to sound really weird. The way that I hit my number is by closing a lot of deals. Closing a lot of deals as mean if they're not a fit, get them out. I'm not going to waste 7 meetings on someone that I know isn't a good fit for us on the first meeting. So I am perfectly fine walking away from business and going, you know what? You're not a great fit for us. Let us know when you're ready. You're too small, and just, chasing down people saying, please give me your money, please, buy this thing even though it's not a great fit, or selling on fake features that may come out in the next release, but give me your money now. Like, I only try to focus on the real opportunities. So with that, my closed lost ratios are probably much higher than other sales reps, but it's because I'm also going for a volume play. I'd rather have 1,000 at bats and really focus on the best 500 at bats than focus on, only 100 at bats and try to close all 100, even though those 100 might not be the best fit for us.
Absolutely. I love that. How do you produce that volume? So you said one piece was I get people off the phone. Do you have any strategies for speed with outreach?
Yeah. So with me, again, this is going to sound really, really crazy coming from someone in sales, is I don't do follow-up calls. I really don't. Like I'll do the initial presentation, the initial demo, right? And then I'll do my email follow-ups, send them the deck or the brochures, or if someone wants to engage with me and have that follow-up presentation, that's totally fine. If they say, I need to review this, give me a month or so, I'll give them a follow-up email in a month. But I'm not that sales rep that's going to pick up the phone every 3 days and going, hey, I want to follow up from that demo 3 days ago. Are you ready to buy? Hey, just checking you got my quote. Are you ready to buy? Like, I am not that sales rep. I only focus on the people that are actually responding, engaging with me, because instead of making 50 calls in a call blitz just to check in, just to follow up and make sure you got it, I'd rather make 50 net new outbound calls to people that never heard my presentation and make those new intros and new connections.
I like that a lot. So do you recommend any type of recommendation or follow up, or how do you determine if somebody is worth follow up?
Yeah, I asked for it. At the end of my presentation, whether it was selling Cork or selling Datto. I go, that's basically us in a nutshell. Where do we go from here? Is this something you're interested in? If they say, yep, great, here's a quote. If they say, yeah, but I need a couple months to think about it, I'll put them on the back burner. If they say no, I go, all righty, thank you for your time. Out of curiosity, why? Oh, you're too expensive. Oh, this is not a good time. Oh, I'm overwhelmed with work. Whatever that excuse is, I'll make good, solid notes out of it. If they say it's too expensive, I'm going to add that to our system. That way, the next time we have a new price, maybe we introduce a junior version of a product that's lower cost, that guy's going to fill in that bucket. If he says, I'm way too busy right now, I can't move forward, I'll add him to my 6-month follow-up. So I'm not going to call him every month. I'm going to put the brakes on him and give him another call in 6 months. So I ask for the business and the next steps. And the ones that are interested and are engaged or saying, yeah, I just need a week or two, I'll give them a week or two. If they're like, yeah, I don't know about this, okay, thank you for your time. And I'll flip them over in our CRM to like a recycle or a marketing drip where I don't have to engage with them, but maybe marketing will invite them to a webinar in the future, or some content in the future, or maybe the BDR will re-engage with them a couple months from now. But I'm not going to waste my time on someone who, after they see the presentation, are like, eh.
Right. That's smart. Before we transition over to talking a little bit more about the difference between cyber warranties and cyber insurance, you have done a wonderful job of explaining some complicated sales things. I'd love to ask where you got your sales training, or if you're self-taught, and where you'd recommend other people to go, because commonly in the MSP space and in the tech space, startup tech space, people have the technical skill but not the sales skill. So I run into folks all the time, and my business does some supportive stuff around sales skills and development. So I know people are constantly looking for the skills that you have. So to break the question down, I know I just asked a long one. I'll give you the two pieces. One, how did you educate yourself to get the level of sales acumen you have? And two, where would you recommend folks that are looking to become talented at sales like you go to get those skills?
Yeah, so I guess for me, what got me really sales pro, and especially in the cybersecurity tech MSP space, was during my early experience with Datto. I was really blessed being there for sure. I got to work alongside the likes of people like Rob Ray and Irvish Badiani and Brian Hopman. You know, these are guys that built many MSP related industry companies in the past. So I really got to learn from them firsthand. This is all while I was finishing up college. I learned, because I was doing college and Datto at the same time, I learned more. I was learning more when I was in the office at Datto than I was going to college, because when I was in college, it was so outdated. I would have people in their 70s teaching me about Twitter versus real-time people at Datto showing me like, no, this is what's happening on the MSP subreddit right now. This is what's happening on YouTube. There's this thing called LinkedIn. Got to learn it inside and out. That's sort of the future, for business sales. So I book a lot of meetings through LinkedIn as well, just LinkedIn messages. I'm connected with thousands of MSPs. Any person that's ever appeared on my calendar, I add them on LinkedIn, because even though we might not be a fit today, I might be selling a different product, a different service in the MSP space in the future. And, we might be able to be a better connection.
Absolutely.
So I'm really blessed of working with some real live talent and learning from my peers. Aside from that, some of the self-learning that I did was anything news related. Like I wasn't going on CNN or Fox.com for news. I was going on MSP related websites, Channel ETE, MSP Mentor, watching over the top 501 MSPs and kind of combing through their websites. Why are these MSPs so good? Why are they the top 500? Then I was able to see, wow, these MSPs actually have a good LinkedIn presence, good website, versus like a one-man shop MSP that doesn't even have a website online or uses bobsit@gmail.com as his primary email address. I also attended a lot of webinars in the MSP space, whether it's a direct competitor of mine doing a webinar and I want to get the upper hand, or just another MSP in the industry doing something that's kind of cool. Like, I attended a webinar on the Kaseya 365 bundle earlier this year. We don't do anything related to Kaseya. It doesn't matter if an MSP is using Kaseya 365 or not, but that just caused so much news and stir. I wanted to make sure I was knowledgeable of the situation.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to do self-learning.
Being knowledgeable is so valuable because nobody can take it away what you know, and spending time to educate yourself, whether it be about good marketing tactics or good sales tactics or whatever. I mean, if you want to be an entrepreneur, having a couple of facets of skills or angles on different skills can be really valuable. You talked about our school system, where there's maybe people that aren't as up to date with newest technology teaching folks. I think our education system is a major opportunity for the future in terms of improving it and helping our young people go into the workforce being more prepared to be productive, which I think will be wonderful for businesses and wonderful for them as well, because one of the number one indicators on whether or not you'll be happy in a role is if you're able to perform well, because people want to feel like they're doing a good job. So Do you have any thoughts on how we can improve our education system? I know that's not your domain, but
I would
I
say
value your
definitely
opinion.
technology, like especially with like AI. And when I say AI, it's not like using AI to like write your 2-page essay for you, but like using AI to your advantage. Like some of my classes in high school were like, oh, okay, you're doing this math test and you can't use a calculator because you might be in an environment where like you won't have access to a calculator. And like nowadays, it's like I have a calculator on my phone. Everybody does. So rather than like do something old fashioned, like we're going to teach you cursive and we're going to teach you math with pen and paper, it should be like, let's teach you how to type faster. Let's teach you how to use that calculator and or actually use Microsoft Excel to run, summaries a lot more accurately. Like that's the stuff that I wish I had more of in college versus in high school versus like I had a lot of filler classes. I had chemistry. I had geometry, like when's the next time I need to know what the side of an isosceles triangle is? Like, you know, I would love to have a class on how to do your taxes though, like some
Yeah,
more real world, number related stuff.
well said. Well said. Well, cool. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing a little bit about who you are and your journey and helping us to get an idea about you. And we're going to transition now into a little bit about cyber insurance and cyber warranties. So we've got here what's the difference? I've got kind of a handful of questions. I guess maybe I'll just start with the first one. Where did the idea for cyber warranties come from? That might not be a question for me to throw at you since you're more focused on partner acquisition, but you may be privy and I'd love to ask it anyway.
Yeah, sure thing. So, in the car industry, you have car insurance and you have a car warranty. Both are offering some means of financial protection. Car insurance is protection if you have an accident or if your car is stolen. A car warranty is, built into the car platform. If something goes wrong with one of those parts or components of the vehicle, whether it's the engine braking or, one of the wires being loose, the car warranty is going to be activated. You'll get it fixed. It's covered under warranty. And the idea of a car warranty is to reduce the likelihood of you ever needing to use car insurance because you're lowering the risk that that vehicle is going to get into an accident because it's running properly. So what we're doing here at Cork with our cyber warranty in particular is we kind of give MSPs a check engine light, if you will. But instead of watching over the vehicle, we're watching over the cybersecurity tools and components. We're watching over to see if multi-factor authentication is turned on. Is RMM running? Is your EDR or antivirus agent running? Are backups being performed, etc.? And we do this in a vendor agnostic way. So we don't care if the MSP is using Kaseya or ConnectWise or Ninja or Datto. It doesn't matter which tools that they're leveraging. We're going to be watching over them proactively. From there, we could determine if there's anything misconfigured within those tools that would lead to a potential accident. The MSPs would fix it, make sure that they're running. Worst case scenario, if an attack still occurs, that's where our cyber warranty can become activated and give the client instant financial compensation to get them back up and running on their feet the same day that they have a cyber incident. Whereas typically with cyber insurance, just like with car insurance, there's going to be a delay there. You're talking about waiting around several weeks or several months before you're seeing a payout. Whereas with cyber warranties, they're generally paid out a lot faster.
So it's a little bit more specific. Is it similar to a situation where somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, your car model has a recall on X. We need to get you in to do X, Y, and Z so that you're able to continue going down the road safely," or is it more focused on when something happens? Where do you guys
It's a
put
little
those
bit of
filters?
both because we can detect if there's a malicious software. Like when Screen Connect had a vulnerability earlier this year, we were able to see that there's inputs out there that weren't patched to say, hey, you might want to go check that out. Yeah, it's not a recall, but there's vulnerable software on this machine. You're going to want to check this out. We could also inform MSPs if software isn't running. So maybe the MSP thought that they sold the client Ninja for RMM and installed Huntress for EDR. But for whatever reason, if the Huntress agent isn't running because the technician forgot to install that software, our platform is going to pick that up. Kind of like a check engine light or something in a car, we're going to ding you. Hey, fasten your seatbelts. Hey, make sure EDR is actually installed on workstation number 47 over there. All the other workstations are covered, but workstation 47, for whatever reason, EDR isn't installed and running on that machine.
Thank you for that. When would you recommend somebody have cyber insurance, and when would you recommend somebody have a cyber warranty, and when would they need both?
I would say everybody here should have cyber insurance. Whether you're a one-man shop law firm or a 1,000-user organization, you should absolutely have cyber insurance. The difficulty there is that depending on the industry, depending on your size, cyber insurance can be potentially very expensive, costing thousands upon thousands of dollars. With Cork and our cyber warranty, we're in the neighborhood of a couple $100s, so it's generally a lower cost solution. Granted, our cyber warranties are capped at $500,000, whereas a cyber insurance policy you could get for the millions upon millions of dollars. So in general, a lot of our MSPs, when they're selling Cork warranty, it's not, hey, turn off cyber insurance and buy a warranty instead. It's really selling both at the same time. The client should have cyber insurance and they'll get that through their cyber insurance carrier and broker. But a cyber warranty is something that MSPs could legally resell and include as part of their service offering or their tech stack. And the way that it's typically sold is as supplemental gap coverage. Very similar to AFLAC insurance, where it's not designed to replace the primary policy. It's designed to supplement and fill in the voids and the gaps of what's not covered by a cyber insurance policy. So I would say, in closing, in an ideal world, a small business customer should have both cyber insurance and a cyber warranty. If they could only afford one, I would selfishly say a cyber warranty is probably the better starting point, mainly because it's going to be a fraction of the cost and it's going to provide you with that proactive monitoring without the need of filling out a questionnaire. Sometimes the insurance questionnaires put a lot of people off. They're there and they're important, but who wants to fill out 25 pages of questionnaires in order to get a policy? So that's something I know the cyber insurance space is working on to become more less burdensome, and Cork is helping in that area, especially with the cyber insurance carriers we work with, like DataStream Cyber Insurance is one of them. But that was a complicated question, and I hope I gave you a great complicated answer.
No, that was wonderful. Thank you. So I have two follow-up questions. One of them is related to the gaps. I'm going to get to that second and try to remember this other question, or maybe we'll just get to it first. The other question is ... Well, we're going to start with the first one. Talk a little bit about those gaps. So you mentioned that Cork, I remembered it and I'm going to say it. So either way, whether you're filling out the really long, intrusive, and largely useless cyber insurance form, and the reason that I say that is not because cyber insurance isn't important, but because those organizations have to take in so much data to be able to make good decisions that it is kind of a nightmare for real. But if you look at that report, or filling out the questionnaire is a report before it's filled out. It's like a Mad Lib, right? Once you fill it out, ta-da, it's a report.
Yeah.
So if you look at that questionnaire, you can educate yourself if you're intrinsically motivated on what the hell I might need to do to improve my posture. So you may not be able to afford insurance, but you can say, I can't afford this insurance, but I could get vulnerability management. I could have X, Y, and Z. I can do these things for my business. Now, that's something you could do if you're intrinsically motivated and you're willing to read these documents and you're able to make action plans off of those things, which can be complicated and challenging. And if you're a small business owner, or if you're a startup owner who's like dealing with a million different things, it's probably not where you're going to want to spend your time. If Cork is going to tell you you should be doing these things and you're going to be in a more secure position, that's a huge benefit. And if you're not able to get cyber insurance, but you are able to have for a lot cheaper price an organization and a tool that's going to tell you what you need to be doing, I think there's tremendous value there. So that wasn't a question, but I wanted to make that point. And then tell me, well, before I ask the other question about gaps, do you want to add anything to that before I just breeze over it?
No, that's basically it. In Cork's example, in order to have a validated warranty, the client has to have four things. They have to have RMM running for patch management. They need to have endpoint protection or antivirus, EDR, MDR, XDR, one of those, some sort of endpoint security tool. There needs to be backups running, and they need to have multi-factor authentication turned on for cloud-based emails. As long as they have those four tools, they'll instantly qualify for a warranty and a warranty payout. And what makes us really unique is that, unlike the security questionnaire, this is real-time data because we're going to be tying into those vendors in real time. So if someone turns off MFA, we alert the MSP saying, hey, we're not paying out on this warranty unless you get this fixed. Whereas with insurance, you fill out that questionnaire, yep, MFA is turned on, yes, backup's running. You submit the answers, and there's no visibility into that. So that's why we're seeing about a 30% of cyber insurance claims get denied, because the insurance brokers push back and say, hey, remember that form you filled out 6 months ago? You told us MFA was turned on, but when Josh got attacked, he had MFA turned off. As a result, our hands are tied. We're not paying you out. So that's just something to keep in mind as well, is if you're filling out those questionnaires, make sure you're filling them out honestly.
And I don't want to go too far down this pathway because it's a very hot topic right now. Insurance companies that are for profit are not looking to pay out. So having a plan as a business owner to where you at least understand, okay, how am I going to protect my business is really important. Now, you're making a point that's extremely valid and across the board accurate. You need to be sure that you're right when you fill out those forms. The other thing that you described, which is that form is set at a point in time and things change. That's one of those things that you don't always control. I may have policy that Timmy doesn't turn off X, Y, and Z or whatever, MFA. But if they do, and even if I do have policy and it hasn't come around to check it and something happens within that window, all the money you're paying towards that insurance is now fallen through a crack, in the system that leaves sometimes businesses going bankrupt or whatever other version of something icky. So I love that you made that point, and it's something that I hope that we solve for in the long term, because I don't think it's a full solution yet. So the next thing that I want to get to is you said you made the point about gaps. You talked about AFLAC and filling in the gaps. You may have already done this, but I'm going to ask it again just to make sure I didn't miss it. If you did, talk a little bit about some of those gaps that Cork or Cyber Warranties are able to.
Yeah, happy to. So aside from the monitoring that gives you a heads up saying, hey, insurance is going to pay out, warranty isn't going to pay out unless you fix these things. Monitoring aside, what we've noticed is that, a lot of cyber insurance policies, just like all insurance policies, have some sort of deductible. Whether it's car insurance, health insurance, cyber insurance, there's going to be some sort of deductible. On a $1 million cyber insurance policy, we've seen a wide range of deductibles, some also known as retention. Some of them are $5,000, some are 10, some are 20, some are 30, so thousands of dollars. So what Cork does is we'll actually pay off the deductible. So if there's ever a cybersecurity incident where cyber insurance needs to be, activated, instead of the client having to pay out $10,000 out of pocket for the deductible or the retention, Cork would be paying that. So that's number one. The second thing we do with our cyber warranties was we provide instant access to funds using a virtual debit card. So typically with cyber insurance, in order for them to release some funds, they have to perform a forensic audit. They have to come in, sniff around, see what happened, see what went wrong, see if there's anything that they could do to not pay out the claim. But some people are better than others. But assuming that MFA was turned on and you meet all the requirements and the forensic team says, yep, this was a real attack, you're looking at several weeks or several months before you're seeing any money. So what Cork is doing with our cyber warranty is we're able to issue debit cards the same day the attack happens with thousands of dollars on it. That way the small business can pay their staff, get back up and running the same day the cyber incident happens. And the reason why we're able to pay out the same day the attack happens and not perform any lengthy forensic investigation is because we're monitoring before the attack ever happens. We already know if MFA was turned on or turned off, if backups are running or not, because we're tying into all those tools that an MSP is selling. Again, vendor agnostic here, whether it's Datto or Axient, anybody.
You guys ever think about teaming up with an insurance, like a...
So we've already done.
Okay, cool.
Partnered up with someone over the summer called DataStream Cyber Insurance. They focus on managed service providers. And, spoiler alert, there'll be other announcements coming soon. I'll just leave it at that. But in DataStream's example, they represent over 40 different carriers. And what Cork does is, because we're monitoring the tools in real time, RMM, EDR, backup, MFA, et cetera, we're able to share this monitored information with DataStream. What that gives DataStream the ability to do is now provide the client with an instant cyber insurance quote, no security questionnaire needed, because we're filling in that gap and monitoring the information. Also, because we're monitoring the information and sharing with them, DataStream is able to provide cyber insurance quotes at roughly a 30 to 40% lower rate. And the reason why they're able to provide them at a lower rate is because of the real-time monitoring. They're able to underwrite the risk more accurately. So
Say that part again.
So because
they're able to underwrite the risk more accurately.
Underwrite the risk more accurately because we're providing them that feedback in real time with our monitoring platform. Whereas traditional cyber insurance is, hi, you want cyber insurance? Fill out this paperwork. We'll give you a quote.
Being able to give that data reduces the risk of the insurance company of having to pay out more, because they are less likely to have an incident with people that have MFA and all of these different things that you guys are helping to insure. Which I congratulate. Well, I won't. Let me just keep going. That's awesome about DataStream, though. You guys are going to do some tremendous things, and I look forward to watching and seeing what happens. Would you be willing to talk a little bit about? Well, actually, one of the questions I have is one of the last questions, but we just touched on it a little bit. So there was a stretch in time, I guess, towards the back part of COVID. I don't know if it's the back half or the back fourth, or maybe even slightly after, where cyber insurance costs just shot through the roof. And it was largely because the carriers were paying out more than what they were getting in for their insurance, which is a good way of saying that they were not underwriting their risk properly. And they moved the line in the sand to a point where they're like, well, there's no way we won't make a profit over here. You've talked about some of the solutions that are coming into play as it relates to the cyber insurance industry being able to more accurately underwrite risk. What other things do you think need to happen for cyber insurance prices to come more closely in line with where they should be, like fire insurance prices, for instance?
Got it. I think cyber insurance providers, some of them, you're becoming a little bit too more strict. Like, hey, we'll give you a cyber insurance policy, but you have to use this vendor. You have to use, SentinelOne. If you're not using SentinelOne, you're not getting a policy from us. Or even after an attack, for like incident response, like, oh, you had an attack, something bad happens. We can help you and we'll pay off for incident response, but you have to use this incident response firm. We'll only reimburse for this incident response. So I think there needs to be a lot more flexibility there to open the nets a little bit more. Granted, there needs to be a proper amount of security tools in place, but that's one of the downsides that I've seen with cyber insurance carriers is that they're only allowing certain tools. Or even worse, some cyber insurance providers have been buying tools. So now that's the fox watching, the wolf watching the hen house, where, hey, we'll give you cyber insurance, but you have to use now our cyber security tool for EDR, XDR, MDR. And now that results in either further conflict with the MSPs, because typically it's MSPs selling those EDR, MDR services and managing those services for their clients. And now some clients are bypassing MSPs and getting it directly through insurance brokers. That's a big gray area as well. So, to answer your question in summary, I think it needs to be more affordable. I think insurance providers need to be more vendor agnostic. And there's some insurance providers out there that are doing better jobs than other, but a lot more ground to cover for sure.
Thank you for that. And your point about being more vendor agnostic, if I could tack something on there, an insurance company is not they're not, they don't have the skills or the tech knowledge as readily available as an MSP does to be able to effectively utilize the tools. So that seems like misplaced responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about what you think the future of cyber insurance and cyber warranties is going to look like.
I think AI is going to become more heavily involved. Like we're already seeing AI in the workplaces in other areas, right? AI is now looking at resumes and telling you if you're approved or denied for an interview. AI is looking at health insurance claims to see if you're approved or denied that medical coverage. I see that being more and more in place even in the cyber landscape. So again, cyber insurance claim happens, let AI look through it. Yep, this claim is denied or not denied, which might hopefully speed up some payouts, hopefully. I know that Cork is using AI right now within our monitoring platform when we're cross-referencing data, right? Because we're looking at all these different tools. We're looking at backup and MFA and EDR and all these tools. So we're going to be leveraging AI in order to create like a FICO score, but for your cybersecurity posture, saying, hey, because you have all these tools implemented, you're less likely to get cyber attacked. As a result, your cost for cyber insurance is now XYZ lower. Kind of like when you want to buy a mortgage or a house, you could get a cheaper rate if you have a better credit score. So we want to do the same thing for cybersecurity. So that's how we're going to be leveraging AI in the future.
Very cool. So I'm going to leave you with one last question. We'll do final thoughts and we'll then go on our way. Last question here is this. I believe that cyber insurance and fire, like insurance, are really similar. And cyber incidents and fire incidents have some similarities. One thing we see currently in the economy is that we don't have enough cyber experts to protect all of the different needs or all the different assets that need to be protected, whether it be there's not enough experts for businesses to hire, or the MSPs that do have the experts don't have enough reach to be able to cover all the businesses that need the support. I've thought that it makes a lot of sense that we have state-sponsored and federal-sponsored fire departments and police departments. And I'm wondering if at any point in the future, it will make sense for there to be state and government-sponsored cyber defenses, even perhaps down to the point of being able to purchase some kind of package of security through your local chamber of commerce. Would you talk a little bit about that idea and what you think is positive or negative about it, and whether or not you think if it's even plausible?
It's an interesting idea for sure. I think that if there is going to be cyber insurance, whether it's offered at a state or a federal level, it needs to be a real cyber insurance policy that actually covers real types of attacks with real payouts that will solve problems. I've seen a lot of MSPs right now, or their clients rather, say, yeah, I have cyber insurance. It came in as a rider with my business insurance policy with everything else. And I'm like, all right, does it cover ransomware? Does it cover wire transfer fraud? Does it cover phishing attacks? Does it cover this? And the answers are like, no, 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 no. But it covers this, like, one thing over here, if my firewall, whatever. And they're labeling it as a cyber insurance policy, even though it's like a crummy little rider policy for like 10 grand. So my thing is that, when my fire department shows up, like, it's a real fire truck, it's proper equipment, it's actually going to solve a problem with real trained people. Like, if there's going to be some sort of sponsored cyber brigade, cyber insurance, like, let's make sure it's solving a real problem and it's not just fluff.
I love it. Nick, thanks for coming on today. Would you give any last thoughts to folks and then let them know if they wanted to engage with Cork, how they could do it?
Yeah, so if they wanted to reach out to Cork, corkinc.com, or they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very popular on LinkedIn. So Nick Wolf on LinkedIn, happy to have a conversation there for sure. The final leaving comments that I'll leave with is, we talked about a lot with cyber warranty and cyber insurance today. Cyber insurance, at the end of the day, yes, it's a lot of paperwork. Yes, it's involved. Yes, there's scenarios where it doesn't pay out. It's still extremely, extremely important. So this is not a knock on cyber insurance in any way. There's tons of claims that do get paid out. There's tons of vendors out there that do give better rates in cyber insurance. So I would just say, do your research and understand the needs of your clients. Are all small business clients going to need a $10 million cyber insurance policy? Probably not. But they are going to need some sort of policy for not if, but when they have some sort of cybersecurity incident.
Awesome. Well, Nick, thanks again for joining us. Hopefully you have an amazing holiday season, a Merry Christmas with your family. Thanks to the folks that joined us and listened. We are going to be taking the next 2 weeks off the Business Strategies Roundtable. So if you're just dying to hear me talk about business stuff, you could go to the YouTube or check out past LinkedIn clips. In the meantime, in January, we're going to be kicking off with a conversation about avoiding cyber burnout, or how to handle it. And I think my guest, Stephen, is going to take the position that it doesn't exist. So I look forward to learning more about that, and hope everybody else has a great holiday season. Thanks, everybody.